Hey, horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of Separation. Cast and crew information down below, and IMDb plot here, real short and sweet. A young girl finds solace in her artist father and the ghost of her dead mother. Not a lot to go on there. Let's see. I caught this one on Amazon, I believe, and I'm sure you can catch it in another place or two. But I think that's where the first and foremost place to watch it is. I think I stopped on this one because I'd seen it mentioned, um, probably on Twitter, but if not, somewhere else on social media or while searching movies. That's more than likely why I kind of saw the title and was like, I saw it mentioned, so maybe it's worth watching. I'm not really sure. So I gave it a try. Um, I think it's not an indie horror movie. It seemed to be shot pretty well, and the acting, I think, at least there's at least one familiar face, at least for me, in this movie. The other people, I'm not sure if I've seen before or not. Um, but let's kind of jump into it. Uh, this is a horror movie, but you might not know it to start off the bat here. It kind of starts in a domestic situation. Mother and a father here, Jeff and Maggie. They don't. Um, I guess that they've been married a while now, and I guess they're kind of going in different directions. Um, Maggie's a little bit more successful, and she's obviously making the money here. And she comes from a wealthy family where Jeff is not. He struggled with jobs. He wants. I, he's involved with comics. He's an artist, and I guess he's known for doing something, but I guess it was a while back. And since then, he hasn't been as successful, and he's been working on some other projects, but none of them were as successful as his previous one. And that's kind of left him behind here, and kind of losing power in the relationship, if you want to call it. And they have a young daughter in between them, and I guess she kind of gets caught in it all, and you see two parents that are, as the title says, separation, two parents that are separating, going in different directions, and the little girl finds herself in the middle of it. And that's kind of what you start here um, early on, and I guess maybe you would call it the first act. I don't know how long this went on, but they seem to kind of really want to paint this picture here, and obviously it's an important theme throughout the entire movie, but they want to give you the point here that the mom is the strong one here, the father is the weak one, and the mom is maybe even a little abusive in a ways, if you want to call it, and that might be a flip because it might be more often to see it the father being maybe the little bit more of an abusive one, but here the mother is got the dominance role, and she's got the higher ground, if you want to call it. And basically she after a couple of scenes go by, she's had enough. She decides to call it quits. She wants a divorce. She wants to officially separate, and I guess almost in the same moment, unfortunately for her, she gets hit by a car, and it's obviously not much of a spoiler here, since the IMDb plot kind of says that the little girl's mother is dead. But being a new movie, I will try to keep this as spoiler free, so I'll only go to a certain point here. Um, but yeah, the mom kind of gets hit by a car here and doesn't make it, and passes away. So while the father probably risks losing everything, or at least his daughter, he probably would have lost her for sure if the mother had lived. Now the mother is dead. Even though her father, who was the one with really all the money here, still wants to put it to the father and try to do what he can to take the little girl away. Um, and this kind of forces the father to man up, get a job. He finds a job. Um, he luckily runs into an old friend that also is in the comics business or whatever. And it might not be the job of an artist that he wanted, but he needs the money. He needs to do what he can now because he has no choice. And he's trying to hang on to his little girl. So you get a lot of this going on, and they go through it all, and so you see all the steps. They even go to a mediator, I believe, or the mother and the father, then again the father and the grandfather. So that's always a theme that's going to go on through this movie. Obviously, you want to know when the horror is to come, and the horror here to come is that the little girl kind of has an imaginary friend, or at least you're going to see it as an imaginary friend. This is not, I would say, the typical imaginary friend kind of movie, because mostly a lot because they spend so much time with this domestic aspect to it, and they don't really stress too many scenes, or they overly do it with the little girl seeing things, whereas some more, this movie is listed as horror, but I would say, some more horror that is, I think the imaginary friend is the point. I think they kind of take a different angle for it. Here, the angle is taken more from this separation, and more involving the parents here than the little girl. Even though you do see her and see her around, there will be a couple of strange events happening, but I think it becomes very clear that this is the mother. The mother is not truly separated. She's still there, and still pulling the strings. Again, being spoiler free, I don't want to go too much further into it. There is a little bit tie into the father being a comic. The little girl does have some puppets or these little dolls, statues, puppets, somewhere in between there. There can be a little bit of creepiness there going on. He's also working on a new project, not totally his idea, with somebody else at work, which kind of ties into a little bit of the scariness here. And the guy he's working with kind of insists that the father has like a darkness about him or something. So you're kind of wondering how that kind of ties in. So they start playing the seeds of the evilness and where this is going. But then it's built on top. There's a twist here, and I think I liked the twist. I don't think it was overly hidden. I think I'm going to try to say this with again, not trying to give anything away or spoiling it, but I think that the twist is in a way that it's kind of hidden there because it's kind of in the background. I think, and you kind of start thinking about the mom and being a ghost, and you kind of start focusing on that. But if you kind of focus on what was really going on to start the movie, you kind of like, oh, okay. Like I said, I like the twist. Is it as a shocker? No, I don't think it's a shocker. I think again, if you paid attention to what was going on early in the film, you'd be like, oh, okay, I could see that happening. But because of the weird events that happen, it kind of gets tailed off for a while. But then it's clear as day, and I think it's clear as day what's going to happen, even before it's happening. So I don't know at what point they really wanted you to get the twist, but I think if you've seen these kind of movies before, I think there's certainly a point where you're going to be like, okay, that it is. I guess there's another way to kind of tip that off, but I'm not going to say it. If you kind of caught the beginning of my review, you might have caught it. But again, I'm not going to say anything because then that makes it way too obvious. even more obvious than it already is, and then that's not fair to the movie, and not fair to you if you're going to watch the movie. Um, but as far as the scares, I guess probably the biggest thing they do here is they do another one of these, and I think I mentioned it on Twitter. Because I forgot there was another movie that I saw recently that did, it was The Conjuring that kind of did it, where they do the exorcist kind of possession thing where they have somebody kind of walk on their, kind of flip around and walk on their back and so forth and do that kind of thing and do kind of weird movements with their body and everything. And they do that here as well. It is still creepy in its own right, even though I argue that maybe we've seen enough of it at this point. I think there's always a creepy level to it, and always a level where you're like, oh, I can't really do that. But do we continue to need it in horror movies at this point? I don't know. I'm sure it makes certain people cringe every time, so I guess it proves to be worthy to some, but I don't know. It might be becoming one of these overly used things. We can argue that at a different time. Like I said, I tried to argue it on Twitter, so if you want to go on Twitter and we can argue about it there again some more, we can do that. But I think they try to use that as one of the most scariest things in this movie. There might be another kind of slight jump scare moment or two. And then I think kind of when the imaginary friend kind of thing goes away and you kind of actually know more or less that it is the mom. Later on, and again, I don't think that's really a spoiler thing, because if you read the IMDb plot and then you watch the movie or you turn it on, well, you kind of know that what's hiding there already. I didn't really know because I didn't really read that before, so you kind of make the assumption that it's the mom, but there's always could have been something else going on there. And then, obviously, the mom is going to make things hard because, again, she still, at the end of the day, doesn't think that the father's the right choice for being with the little girl, even in the after a life there. So she is going to do some of the haunting things, and it might scare some audiences. I wouldn't say this is anywhere on the scale of The Conjuring or anything like that. A Conjuring type movie or type scare. They're going to try here and there, but again, I think while a horror movie, while it does have the imaginary friend, while it does have the ghost, it does have that twist in it that kind of gives an overall reasoning why certain things happen and so forth. And again, like I said, I liked it. It fit the story, put the story together. There's other things I could say, but I'd be spoiling, so I'm not going to say that. I think the stress here is separation again, and I think probably that was a draw and kind of kept my attention, being someone who came from separated parents, who lived that. You can kind of watch the movie and kind of in a way relate to certain things. Maybe not the imaginary friend and the hauntings and so forth, but as far as being in that kind of situation of separation and so forth. So that's kind of what got me hung on and kind of going through that and watching that. Sometimes horror can kind of keep your attention, or a movie in general can keep your attention, whether it's horror, drama, comedy, or whatever, because it paints a similar situation to you, or something that you can relate to or experience and whatever. And whether the movie is good or not, at the end of the day, if you rewatch it, or it keeps your attention because of that relation, and in maybe trying to pick up what the storytellers are saying here, if they're trying to make commentary or trying to give a message or so forth here. I don't know if they are or they're not. I guess, at the end of the day is that, even though parents separate, things happen, relationships break up, just realize that it does have an effect on your kids, one way or the other. I also don't want to be here preaching or anything, but just, realize that it will affect your kids one way or the other, and they are drawn into it, whether it's their fault or not, and that plays a role in it. So definitely feel for the little girl here. Definitely, um, on her side, and she kind of gets sucked into it and um, gets the worst of it, obviously, because there is an evil here and there's a presence here that she probably shouldn't experience, as hard as her parents separating was, and then obviously her mom's death was, besides the fact. Um, yeah, this one overall, I'm going to give two pools of blood, just because again, I think they were probably better at pinning the drama part of it, the domestic part of it, than they were with the horror part of it. Um, so yeah, two pools of blood, and that is out of five. Um, it's still a well put together movie. There's no problems with the acting. The acting is solid all around. The little girl does a good job. Like I said, there's not too much on her. She has her moments, but it's not the usual imaginary friend movie where a lot is on whoever that kid actor is. Um, a lot more is on the parents here. But the acting is good overall. I'll just say that. I'm not gonna give away things here. So judge for your own whether you want to watch this movie or not. But that hopefully kind of gives you the gist of what this movie is about and what you can expect to see. If you're like me and you kind of saw it in passing or saw it mentioned on social media or so forth. So with that, again, two pools of blood, and that's out of five. horrorscorereviews.blogspot.com, where you can find more reviews. Video reviews are there, but there are written reviews there to go through as well. A lot of recent stuff there as well. A lot of the stuff that I do screener wise is there in a written form. So if you're looking for those kind of things that fall on Shudder and so forth, you might want to check out the blog. Twitter, Facebook, information down below as well if you want to, like I said, talk horror, argue about exorcisms and the use of that kind of thing, the whole crawling thing around thing, if we should still do that or not. Please feel free to reach out to me there. We can have a conversation there about it. In the comment section as well, if you want to throw in your 2 cents on that there, or the movie, or something else, the video, whatever, feel free to do so. Please, like, follow, subscribe, anything to support the effort here is appreciated. Yeah, I'm going to separate myself from this review and move on to the next one, so I'll catch you later, horror fans.